G'day guys, hope you had a great Christmas and you got out for some spearfishing. Happy New Year and welcome back to the Noob Spearo podcast 2016. We are launching the start of season 2 today, which is pretty exciting because we've made a whole heap of changes to improve the show. Big thank you to the listeners that contributed in our survey. So we've taken some of that feedback on board, made some improvements. We also welcome aboard the team Pat Dwyer. He's our intern podcast producer, and he's taken wickets. And so we hope you enjoy some of these new changes that are coming up. Also, another exciting bit of news: we're running our very first competition on Facebook and Instagram. So you can get involved with that at noobspearo.com. But basically, we're going to be giving away a set of Noob Spearo Edition custom penetrator blades. And all the details will be at noobspearo.com. So look out for that. Really looking forward to giving away a set of these beautiful fins to one of our listeners. So anyway, welcome to Season 2. Hope you enjoy it. Here's Turbo.
Yeah, g'day guys. So today we're speaking with legendary South African Spearo, Chris Coates, and he's coming to us from Qatar. So he's off on another one of his spearfishing adventures. We've got a great show in store for you. He's going to talk to us all about Burleigh and how to use it effectively. If you think you knew how to use Burleigh, you might be making a few mistakes. So yeah, he's got some really great tips there. And flashes. Once again, I just thought it was a matter of just putting something shiny in the water, but you'll soon find out that Chris has got a few ideas about that. And he also speaks to us about noise and the different species and how he uses them. And the guy's been spearing for a long time.
Today's show is brought to you in partnership with Adreno Spearfishing Supplies. Adreno is one of the world's biggest and best spearfishing stores. You can visit Adreno online at spearfishing.com.au or in store at their Brisbane or Sydney locations.
I wanted to share awesome experiences that you can have when you are in the water, and that's why I started spearfishing.
I just clamped down on the reel and got drugged down to about 50 feet, and I'd never had a battle like that before in my life.
So when you're learning where to hunt and find fish, they're the hot spots. It's where fish want to be.
Don't overcomplicate your gear. Don't go diving dressed up like a Christmas tree.
I actually started off in stubbies with a bloody belt with a pig knife on it.
And they've seen this big fin break the surface, roll into the water, look down, here's this nice big great white.
Once your face hits the water and you feel relaxed and all the other stresses of life seem to disappear.
It's a whole new world and it's mysterious, it's magical.
Beats the shit out of netting anyway.
Oh yeah.
Welcome to the start of Season 2. Today we chat to born and bred South African owner-operator of Coatesman Spearfishing Safaris. He co-founded In The Zone Productions with another former guest on the show, Richard Leonard. Currently he's travelling the planet guiding and coaching Spearos while developing a course in collaboration with some of the planet's best Spearos. Welcome to the show, Chris Coates.
How you guys?
How are you, mate?
Good to be here.
Very good.
Good to be here. You guys got me up nice and early for this one.
Yeah, I know. Well, you should get up early. It's good for you.
Thanks for joining us, Chris.
Mate, we saw on Instagram yesterday you shot a fairly big AJ. So tell us all about that. Where are you at the moment?
Yeah, at the moment I'm in Qatar, just catching up with some friends out here, and they get some good AJs. You know, when you're here, you normally get pretty sidetracked chasing big Spanish mackerel. I mean, the mackerel get really big here. I mean, every trip, I've been here, I've got fish around the 27 to 30 kilogram mark. So there's always nice big Spanish macs.
Wow.
But the one fish I haven't got was a decent AJ, and like this, it's middle of winter here now, and it's sort of kind of more AJ season. So, yesterday I was like, okay, right, I'm gonna leave the Spanish max. I'm gonna try to find myself a decent AJ. So, happy to tick that box.
That must have been a pretty difficult decision for a South African, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I've shot a good few Spanish max here.
Yeah, you guys seem to love them over there, don't you?
Yeah, you hear that? That's my alarm. That's supposed to have gone off.
Is that when we were meant to interview you, I think? Yeah. Good stuff. Thanks for getting up early for us over there in Qatar, Chris. So, look, where did you actually get started spearfishing, and how long have you been at it?
I've probably been spearfishing for almost 30 years. I can't remember when I started diving. Just grew up on the beach catching crayfish and octopus and things like that. But I remember I bought a small plastic champion Cavallero spear gun. Must have been like a 50 centimeter from some chap. And back then I remember it was 50 South African rands, which probably in today's money equates to probably like just a couple dollars. And I stole a washing line and found a float that had washed like a trawler net float that washed up on the beach. And that was my boy, and went out and shot a whole lot of what we call stone bream or stinkies, because they eat like the
weed,
seaweed in it, and it kind of ferments in their stomach, so when you gut them, they're really pong. That was like my first spearfishing experience.
Yeah, okay. We've got some similar fish over here. We don't call them stinkies, but I think we're going to start. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So did you have a mentor starting out, or did you have buddies that you went out with?
Yeah, when I started out, a lot of it was just crayfishing and that kind of thing. So a friend of mine, Warren Blackmore, we dived together for a few years, but it was a serious case of the blind leading the blind. I mean, there wasn't, this is long before internet days and that kind of thing. And, even books were hard to come by, being all the way out in South Africa. There were no magazines. So we kind of just fumbled along, and the whole learning process was really long and drawn out. And it took us years to even shoot a Spanish Mac. It was like, when growing up, that was like, man, if you could shoot a Spanish Mac, you must be insane. Like, you must be an awesome Spearo.
Yeah.
Superhuman, to shoot one of those things. I mean, honestly, it was so far out there to shoot a fish like that. And once we learned that it's actually not that difficult, it was just being in the right place, having the right gear. It actually became quite easy.
So what you were using, like the guns back then were really small, and you had a thin diameter shaft, I'd imagine.
No, we progressed quite quickly to the early Rob Allen guns.
Yep.
That was probably the one upside that we did have. I live probably about an hour away from Durban, where Rob Allen has his factory. So we were able to go in and at least, Rob Allen's early guns were very effective, and I think they kind of took, especially Australia, by storm, in the early days. They were very effective. And, that's what we dived with. And the guns haven't actually changed all that much now until recent years with roller guns and things like that. But, for the last 20 years, that's pretty much what we've used, the same thing. They've just kind of modernized, that's all.
We interviewed Rob a couple of months back, and he's still in development of a roller muzzle, but no, his guns remain pretty effective and a great gun. Still, it's still I think it's still probably the most popular gun to buy in Australia. So, so apart from sort of like not having probably the access to the resources that we've got today, and what was some of your other biggest challenges getting started?
Well, the big thing out where we were is that we didn't have anybody who dived with boats, and everything is shore diving. So it's a pro and a con, because shore diving, it really separates the men from the boys. Well, obviously surfing and diving, we were in the sea the whole time, so it wasn't really a big thing. Mm-hmm. But the thing is that we didn't boat dive. So, diving in deeper spots was probably the one thing we weren't exposed to. So the local spots that we dive from ashore, they only go to about 18, 19 meters. So that was kind of your comfort zone. Anything past that was it was just foreign. And even today, it's when I get stuck at home sometimes and I don't, we don't land up boat diving for a while. Your diving kind of slips back into the sort of like comfort area, where you're happy in 18, 19 meters, and then when you suddenly have to go and dive in the 30s, it takes you a couple of days to sort of climatize, because you kind of get used to what you've been diving.
Yeah, Turbo was looking at me going, yeah, I've acclimatised to 30 metres. we probably don't do much diving past 30 metres very often, Chris, so, but I know what you mean by getting in a comfort zone with a certain depth when you're shore diving and then heading it out a bit wider and being really uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's just exposure. Like a classic example, you guys going, suddenly 30 metres. It's, if you had to go and dive in warm blue water where you can dive as deep as you want to go, it doesn't take most guys long, a couple of weeks, or if you live there for a little bit, suddenly most guys actually find 25, 30 quite comfortable.
Okay.
It's really, that's one of the things about spearfishing. It's if you live in a place that's cold, murky, and you're only diving 15 meters, that's what you're comfortable with, and it's you go out of that into something else. It is difficult. It is difficult to suddenly, and it seems sort of like a whole. I was going to say mind fuck, but it probably doesn't.
Yeah, well, Chris, you must have shot, you have shot a lot of great fish in your lifetime. Is there any one fish that you sort of shot or had a battle with, or you lost, that sort of stands out in your mind as, that most memorable fish?
It took me ages to think of one. No, seriously, just to think of one that really stood out.
Yeah.
And probably the fish that kind of really stands out, that always comes into that list, is got to be that marlin I shot in Mozambique.
Is that on the Mozambique film?
Yeah, that's the one. We weren't even going to go diving, and the wind turned, the water cleaned up, and we'd been in Mozambique for almost a month.
Wow.
And we were already 2 days overdue, and everyone was like, man, we've got to go home. And it's like, I looked at the water, I was like, no, we thrashed around in crap water for 2 weeks. The water's finally good, and we just, we sort of, okay, right, we'll give it a morning, quick one, and literally we drove out there, jumped off the boats and let down the flasher, and I did one half warm-up dive, and there were some rainbow runners, hit the surface, and I'm 30 seconds then I'm doing a breathe up, and I see this fish come in, and I dive down. I probably only dived down about 5 or 6 meters or so.
Brilliant.
And I met it coming up towards me, and I switched it off.
Wow.
And it's I was just.
So you stoned it.
Yeah, what the funny thing was?
Yeah.
That morning we were sitting on the boat, and I asked the guys to pull out an extra float and everything, and the guys go, "Why are you doing this?" I said, "Well, hey, we don't know what's going to happen. Maybe someone shoots a marlin or something." I said that. I said, someone shoots a marlin or something, we've got to be ready, because guys often ask me what was I thinking, because I only had a reel gun, and but on my reel I had 100 meters of Dyneema on my reel, and then my gun was attached with a bungee to my belt reel, which had 100 meters of line on it. I had a float, one of those hard Rob Allen floats, clipped onto my flasher on the surface.
Okay.
So if you do shoot something big, it'll finish your reel line on your gun within a few seconds, 20 seconds or whatever, and then it'll go into your belt reel line. But then, by then you should normally be able to get back to your flasher, and you just clip that float onto your flasher line. Eject your belt reel, and now you've got 200 meters of line on a float. There's not a lot of fish that are going to, pull that under.
Yeah.
So that was the thinking in the back of my head, and I think that's why I didn't hesitate on the shot, because I just thought I'd kind of in my mind already prepared, and. I think that's a key to good spearfishing, is being prepared, so you don't hesitate, because as soon as you hesitate, that's when you start pulling shots that are bad.
Yeah.
And you don't make shots, or you miss out on shots. Even today, I'll dive, and if hesitates on something, I'm not sure about the shot. It's amazing how quickly an opportunity becomes a non-opportunity.
Yeah,
way or something.
I can relate.
So, yeah, even mentally prepared is brilliant, you know.
How addictive is the sound of that reel, just having line just peeled off it like that?
You shoot a big wahoo or something like that. It's super fun. Look, I mean, there's a classic one. We could chat about gear and stuff all day.
Yeah.
Like shooting wahoo with a like a blue water bungee and a float. It's probably way more effective than a reel.
Oh, okay.
But well, you know, that's just what I've seen. Like, yeah, shooting it with a reel is a whole lot more fun, you know.
Yeah, I can relate to that. So look, just moving on to the next section, hunting technique. What's your favourite spearfishing hunting technique, and how do you apply it effectively?
I thought long and hard about this because there's obviously so many different things, and they're like, you know, there's so many, like, depends on what you're hunting. But I think the overall thing that has kind of developed in my hunting over the last, say, 5 or 6 years, you know, just diving with lots of different guys from around the world, is the effective use of noise.
Okay.
So to attract fish, you know, sometimes, and when I say noise, sometimes total silence obviously works as well. So knowing when and how to make noise and the different types of noise. You know, sometimes, you know, like a real loud banging on your gun or rattling. Sometimes that works. Sometimes it's just a subtle croak or a clicking in your mouth. And they work. The thing is that they work for all fish. You know, from, you know, when you're hunting snapper, they sometimes like a bit of a croak. To, you know, Spanish mackerel, they like a little bit of noise. Wahoo like noise. Like all your game fish generally like noise.
Okay.
But it's knowing when to make the noise, and like how long and that kind of thing. And it's a bit of a trial and error, and it's something that you kind of have to work on through your diving.
Yeah.
And I think it's just something great for guys to know, that you can use noise as a I'd say even more effective tool than a lot of flashes and Burleigh and stuff like that to get a fish to come close to you.
Okay. So
yeah,
with you, with your learning curve, have you sort of observed some of the other guys you're diving with using that noise as a technique and then just sort of applying it yourself, or have you just sort of done it instinctually?
No. Definitely seeing other people do it and do it effectively. You know, the thing is, I always knew that noise was, you know, because people speak about it and it's written. It's not a secret or anything. You know, it's well documented. But until you see someone actually using it well, then, you know, it doesn't really click in your mind, and you actually start applying it properly. I'll give you a classic one, and this is a great one to start with. Like shooting things like snapper reef fish, they like noise, but not harsh noise. They like sort of like a low grunting or a croaking in the throat.
Okay.
But I found that they don't like it when they're looking at you. So you see a fish come in, and then he turns away, and he starts swimming away, and then you make a few subtle noises.
Oh, okay.
And then he gets curious because he goes like, you can't really see what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he'll turn around again. He'll give you another glance, and then you keep very quiet and still when he turns around. Then he'll swim away again, and as he swims away again, you make another noise. And I think it just, you know, you play with their mind, and eventually they turn around, they swim right up to you, and, you know. And when you do that, I think, yeah,
that's good.
Then. Spearfishing gets really fun when you start doing stuff.
Yeah, I like that. I'm connecting a few dots as you just sort of laying that out, and I'm thinking, I'm going to try some of that next time I'm out. So, no, that's good. I like that.
You got to be able to hold bottom time to do that. So,
yeah, well, I'll be doing that then, won't I, Brown?
Yeah, go dive. I dive nice and shallow when you're trying to puzzle fish out like that. You know, that's not. That's not in the 30-meter zone. Eh? That's much shallower than that.
All right, Chris, you've been diving for, you said, 30 years. Mate, have you had any near misses or scary moments out on the water?
Yeah, I actually have, and it actually relates to something of what I was talking about earlier. You know, I must have been about 20 years old, and we went up to a place what we call Sodwana, which is about a couple hundred k's up the coast. And you know, back then, all I'd been doing is shore diving. I'd never actually dived off a boat.
Right.
And the place isn't actually the right sort of place to shore dive, but there is a reef offshore. And I swam out there shore diving, and I saw some boats like about a K out to sea. And I thought, hey, they must be on a reef. I'll swim out there. And when I got there, some guy said to me, "What the hell are you doing out here?" I said, I don't know, I'm spearfishing. He goes, "No, mate, it's like, you know, you're mad." You know, so but anyway, he said, "Look, they're going spearfishing in the afternoon off the boat. You know, climb on the boat. He'll take me back to the beach, and in the afternoon we'll go diving." And I was like, "Hey, no one way," because the water was so clear. I mean, misunderstand there, the water was like 40-meter viz.
Wow.
I mean, I was looking at, I was like, how on earth are you supposed to shoot fish in this? Because I can't see fish coming, and you can see a fish coming from a mile away, and I just wasn't seeing fish. So anyway, we went, I hooked up in that afternoon and went out to a reef, and it's probably about in the 25-meter zone. Yep. And bearing in mind that my shore diving was 18 meters, 19 meters max, absolute max. And I remember that day, my buoy line was 25 meters long. And I had a small bungee of about 2 meters on it. And in those days, this was pre-reel gun sort of diving days. We used to dive with 2 guns all the time. So I dived with the 1.2 and a 1.1. And the 1.1 was on what we call the piggyback line. It's about a 2-meter line with a 1-inch stainless steel ring that used to slide up and down your buoy line.
Okay.
And I remember getting to the bottom and looking and not well. I remember getting to the bottom and not being able to get to the bottom holding my 1.2. I had to take the smaller gun that was on the piggyback line, and just to give me an extra 2 meters to be able to reach the bottom. So it was pretty much in 25 meters, and that was deeper than I'd ever dived. You know, it was definitely, you know, I mean, I'd never ever got to the bottom of my buoy line before, and it was so clean. I was looking around and going, I can't see any fish. You know, I'm not going to shoot anything. So I was looking around the reef because it's like a coral reef, and where we are, we don't have coral reefs, and there's like these little fish swimming around. And then I remember going, geez, like I've actually been here way too long. I've got to get out of here. Started swimming up to the surface, and I came up like on a mid-water somewhere, smack bang underneath a whale shark.
Oh, wow.
So like now, I mean, I'd left the bottom already needing air. I come up underneath this whale shark, and I mean, it like totally took me by surprise. And it was massive, and I'd never seen a whale shark in the water before. So like now I'm looking at this whale shark going, wow, look at this whale shark. Kind of had to swim around a little bit. And then, you know, I mean, nowadays, you know, when there's a whale shark, there's generally other fish with it. Next thing is a whole big shoal of what we call fulvi kingfish, fulvigatus, I think. So the Aussies call them, I think it's a yellow spot.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Yep.
And they came swimming around the whole shoulder from underneath the whale shark, and I was going like, man, I've never seen fish like that before, you know. And here's my chance, you know. So now I'm 3 stages down, you know.
Yeah.
should have left earlier. Yeah. Got sidetracked by a whale shark. Now I'm getting sidetracked by a fish.
Yep.
So I shoot this. Remember, I'm holding the small gun. I shoot this fulvi, and in typical trevally fashion, kingfish fashion, it goes straight down into the reef. But now I'm trying to swim up with my other gun because I think I don't want to let my other gun go down there.
Yep.
You know, but that stainless steel ring had got jammed over the shark clip on the 1.2. So now I'm busy trying to feed that, like trying to undo it so I could feed the line through that ring.
Yeah.
And it was like, so now I'm like 5 or 6 things down, and I remember just bailing it. That's the last thing I remember, is actually leaving it and starting to head for the surface. The next thing I remember, I woke up basically holding the float.
Oh, no.
Oh, wow.
And what happened was, and I think it was fortunate, it's because of the short line, the float was right on the surface, and I probably came up right next to the float, and just out of instinct, just grabbed it.
Yep.
Obviously when you black out, you kind of, your memory of, blacks out before you black out.
Yep.
So, you don't really remember what happens for a few seconds before. So that's why I don't remember actually getting to the surface and grabbing my floats. But all I remember is waking up on my buoy. And one of the things I'd made a chronic error, and this is obviously the first time I'd been out in the boat. I had swum away from everybody else. I was probably, I don't even know how far away I was. I tried to dive down again afterwards because, and retrieve the fish, which is another disaster and all that. And I was there for like 10 minutes before the boat got back to me. And, that day could have seriously turned out differently. And, blackouts happen in spearfishing.
Yep.
And, when they happen, I say to guys, don't be freaked out about it. Just make it your goal that it never happens again.
Yeah.
Be grateful that you've had the learning experience to actually know, hang on a second, this does really happen. And, I think from that day, I've pretty much dived pretty safe. I haven't come close, since then.
No.
There's always that time when, you're going to get yourself in a tight spot or something, and you but not something you aim for.
Sounds like you learned a lot of lessons from it though. Like you isolated in on staying with the guys, and obviously leaving a bit more in reserve on the way up because you ran into a whale shark, then a school of fish, then you shot a fish, and then you wanted to take a gun with you. You had a short float line. There's a number of sort of factors in there that sort of affected that experience, but I guess like you survived and you've learned some lessons from it, so it's all good.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of little things there, but your main thing is just diving well within your limits, knowing your limits. And the guys say this over and over again, but it really, it really just is that, and never turn around for a fish.
Okay.
That is something I've learned. Like the times I've come close to like feeling that I've pushed it too hard. I've been times when I've been coming up off the bottom and a fish has swam past and I've gone, I'm still good, either chased it or had a look or something like that. And then you get back to the surface, you go, that wasn't so clever, it's just not worth the fish.
That's incredible.
Spanish are a bad one for that too. Like you don't see
they'll
them.
right you when you're coming up. It's terrible fish.
Yeah, they do it all the time. It's like they're not even interested until they've seen you on the bottom, and then you've spent all your time on the bottom, and you're headed for the surface, and bang, the school comes out of nowhere, but you're moving too fast, or your gun's not positioned right, or whatever.
You got to be sneaky there, man. You must wait for your mates to start swimming up, and then he's swimming up, you must be swimming down.
That's what I've been doing lately. But now they're going to be onto it though.
I've got a mate. He's 65 years old. He shoots more wahoo than anybody I know, and that's his favorite trick. He waits for, like, I go diving with him, and I've got a longer bottom time than him, so he just like sits there waiting for me, and then I turn around to come up, and every time I'll meet him halfway with a big smile on his face, and he'll go down and he'll shoot a wahoo. And like, how the hell do you do that? Yeah. Like the one day I think he did it to me 5 times in a row. Hadn't seen a fish, and he shot 5.
Oh wow! Sounds like a mate I go diving with. He ties his flasher to my float and lets me tow it around while he shoots fish off it. He's a great guy.
He must give you free beer or something.
No, he just sneaks it on there. He knows I'm just going to power away towing it for him all day. So he has a good laugh out of it. All right, Chris, we're into the next section of the show. It's called Veterans Vault. Pirate Pete, where are you?
Arr! It's time to open the Veterans Vault.
Today's Veterans Vault was brought to you in partnership with Penetrator Fins. Spearfishing is all about self-improvement, but there are some things you can buy off the shelf that are going to help you with your diving. Penetrator blades are lighter and more reactive, and they've improved my diving, and I'm sure they're going to improve yours.
Yeah, I've recently switched over to Penetrator carbons, and it's made a big difference for me. I put much less energy in and get a much greater output, meaning that they're an effective fin. They're lightweight and comfortable, meaning that I spend more time on the bottom.
So check out Penetrator blades at penetrator.com or check out our new Noob Spearo Edition Penetrator blade at noobspearo.com.
So this is the part of the show where we ask our special guests to take us deep into an area of spearfishing expertise that they'd like to share about. So we call it the Veterans Vault, and I understand that you're going to talk with us today about how to use flashes and Burleigh effectively.
Yeah, this is probably something which I see guys coming, especially on the trips that I do, and it's the same. It doesn't matter whether you know Mozambique or hunting tuna and even New Zealand or whatever it is. Burleigh is the one thing. There's a technique to it, and there's an effective technique to it. I've seen a lot of guys. They come and they just Burleigh the hell out of the place, and thinking that more Burleigh is better, and that's not necessarily the truth to the whole story. Actually, I prefer to call it laying a Burleigh trail, because that's actually explains what it is. You're laying a trail. You're laying a trail of breadcrumbs, and when you're able to do that, that's when I think Burleigh becomes really effective. I'll tell you why putting a whole big pile of Burleigh doesn't work, is that that Burleigh generally sinks very deep, and then the fish just feed on it deep down, and they don't have to come up. So you can maybe initially put a fair amount in the water just to sort of get things going, but the trick after that is to really limit it and lay a trail. So like just when depending on the current and the wind and how your drift is, you need to be able to look down and just see like a few pieces just going off into the distance. So if a fish does come in and starts feeding on the Burleigh, he's going to eventually land up, eating all that Burleigh, and having to come up close to you to the point where you're basically feeding them. And it's something which, works especially well with tuna. I see guys like same thing. They're either using too much Burleigh in one go, or they're too sporadic. So they'll put Burleigh and then they'll leave it for like 10 minutes, and then they'll put Burleigh, and then the fish go and feed on that clump down there when it gets deep. But they don't actually keep on the trail. So it's a bit. What happens is guys get lazy. So burleying is something that you've got to be constantly doing. So like, let's just say, for example, I'm on the flasher and I've got the Burleigh bag, and I'm sitting there slowly, like, putting one chunk, wait a few seconds, put another chunk. If you just sit there slowly, relaxed, it really helps to chop everything up before. I know sometimes we do it in the water, but that's very, cutting Burleigh in the water is, what's the word?
It's a pain in the ass.
It's tiring.
Yeah.
You're not really hunting. It's a pain in the ass. It's better to cut it up before and just put it into a bag. But the thing is just to let it go. But the thing is now let's say I dive, and my dive is 2 minutes from start to finish, plus the time that I've left the bag and the whole lot, 2 to 2.5 minutes. That Burleigh trail is now stopped for 2 minutes.
Yep.
And when you come up, you can see there's a gap in the Burleigh. And if it's not too bad, the fish will find it. So it really helps if there's two of you,
Yep.
and while the one dives, the other one just keeps it going.
Ah, yeah, right. This is good.
And then that way you keep the trail. I find that actually the burley lasts a lot longer, so you use less burley through the day, as opposed to just like throwing whole big heaps and handfuls the whole time.
Yep.
You know, because just putting a piece in, and so your burley lasts longer. The trail's more effective, and your things like your jobfish and your snapper, they're really competitive and aggressive feeders. So you can get a fish out of 50 meters of water quite easily, because they're going to come up. They'll finish all the burley that's down deep very quickly, and they'll compete the whole way up, to 5-10 meters below you.
Yeah,
and it makes shooting those fish quite easy, actually, when they're feeding on the burley like that.
Okay, so like you've mentioned burley bag a couple of times now. I haven't actually used the burley bag. I know line fishermen do it a lot. I haven't actually been out with guys and seen them using it.
Yeah, I've never seen it before.
What sort of have you got a brand or a type of burley bag that you recommend, or just like an old sack of potatoes type style sack or something?
No, we started using, and I'm sure other guys do make them. Rob Allen makes a net for crayfish.
Okay,
it's probably a meter long, and it's made out of a sort of probably like a half to 1 inch sort of
mesh
kind of bag, fairly rugged, for putting crayfish in.
Okay.
And that works quite well. You can, sometimes you can shake it and some of the burley falls out. It's they're very effective. And you can I'll just put a clip on that, and that just clips onto my float.
Oh, yeah, nice.
That's flasher float, yeah.
Okay, cool.
It's good. I think I've actually got one in the shed, and I've never ever used it. And I've never seen a cray go in it. So I think now
we're going to try that.
We'll have to put it into use.
Definitely. All right. What sort of fish or crustaceans or whatever? What's the material you're using for burley? What do you recommend using?
It really depends on where you are and what's available. For the most part, we just use fish carcasses. Yep. I just take a big machete, or what we call a cane knife. It's like just a really big knife and a board, and just chop up the carcasses, the bones and everything. Obviously, that's not the best burley. Yep. I mean, guys will go, like pilchards or sardines make the best burley. That is true.
But do you want to spend?
You can't get. Yeah, you don't want to spend the money. And also, it's the whole thing of sometimes, don't necessarily want to be going and buying fish.
Yeah.
To catch fish.
Yeah.
Just the whole,
ethics of it.
Yeah, the whole trawling thing, and when it comes to shooting tuna, and you've got clients and stuff, and the guys are paying, and they pay stupid amounts of money for piles of burley. Then you just buy pilchards. Tuna specifically really, really like sardines or pilchards, whatever you call them.
Okay.
But you can use any fish really. But it is like if you use the day before, it's carcasses or.
In New Zealand, they love to use, like sea urchins, or what they call them, kinna there. I mean, there's a lot of stuff you can use. I mean, I've seen guys using old cray frames and crab shells and all sorts of stuff. So
anything that the fish eat,
Cool.
Yeah. And then the other thing I was going to chat about is flashes, because burley and flashes do go hand in hand, because you're basically trying to attract fish.
Yep.
And just with flashes, there's no right and wrong answers. Well, really, there's, but there are a few things that I've sort of, a few observations that I've made over the years. And when guys are making their flashes, it's always good to just take these into consideration. And I think flashes work best when they are realistic and not too big, because what happens is, I've seen it time and time again with big flashes or flashes that don't look realistic. It draws a fish in from far away, but then the fish doesn't come close. It kind of swims up to as it gets to a point where, especially in clean water, where it sees the flash and it goes, that doesn't look like a fish.
Yeah.
Or it doesn't look realistic, or it's just acting weird. It kind of keeps its distance. Where I found if you using smaller things on your flasher, not such big discs and things like that, or things that look realistic. I found that the fish come a lot closer because the point where they go, that's not real, is a lot close. They need to get close. So making each of the little fish or whatever you put on there actually look real is quite important. Making something look real, funny enough, works really well when you put an eye on it. So if you've got like a little flash, if you've got like a little fish that you've put on there, like little silver discs or something, put a distinctive eye on it, because fish that hunt, they're used to seeing an eye. If you look at fishing lures, look at all the fishing lures and stuff like that. They've all got eyes. Some of them have even got oversized eyes.
Yeah, okay.
With really bright yellow and things like that, because the predator actually focuses in on the eye. It's the same way that like carcop and things, the jobfish, or wahoo, when they see your eyes moving, that's what they're always looking at. These things they always hone in on the eye. So put an eye on it. But then the most effective thing that I found, you can chuck everything away and just have this one thing.
Yep.
And that is having what we call a buzz bomb. And we make that out of the inside lining of a wine box or fruit. You get those 5-liter fruit juice boxes. With a tap on it. It's like there's like a lining inside of that.
Yep. Yeah, they usually got cheap wine in them over here, mate. We know all about those.
We call them a goon cask in Australia.
Yeah, that's exactly it. You can call it a goon flasher. So you basically take that, you leave the top side attached. So you cut the edges off and make it into strips. Yep. Leaving the top side attached, you just wrap that around a 6-ounce sinker and put a cable tie around it, and it makes like a silver squid.
Okay.
Man, I've had if you go in pretty much all the early movies that we did, we always showed at least one shot of a fish with its nose inside that flasher. So Spanish mackerel, they'll come and they'll put their nose right into it or bite it, or you lose them constantly because the fish just eat them. But that flasher works probably better than anything else. So I put that at the bottom of my flashers, and that's deadly. That's a little secret right there.
Well, we're gonna have to get on the wine then, I think, Chris. That's our afternoon gone.
Couple of casks. That's us. So we'll be good at interviewing then, I hope.
Also make a good float too if there's any left over. That'll be good.
Yeah, and that flasher there doesn't just work for pelagics. It works for a lot of reef species as well. Even I've let them down and bounced it across the bottom of the reef, and the grouper and things come out and follow it all day. It's quite interesting.
Yeah, cool. Right. That's unreal.
Yeah. So give that a bash.
Okay, Chris. So just moving on. That was an awesome Veterans Vault. I got tons out of that. I've got heaps of notes, so I'll have to do a decent write-up about. You mentioned a lot of good stuff in there. So change of pace. What's the funniest thing you've experienced out spearfishing?
Oh, I thought long and hard about this as well. And I'm actually going to share a story that's not my story, just because it's too bloody funny. The guys probably won't mind me sharing it because they've shared it before. But anyway, it's a good few years ago. Mates of mine, Sean and Evan, they go for a shore dive, typical South African fashion. And this was long before the wetsuit pants were sort of popular. Farmer John was a kind of standard issue, especially where we lived. So if you get out in the sea and you need to, if nature calls, you generally have a bit of an issue, especially if you like a K offshore, and swimming back is just not an option.
Yeah.
I think most guys out our way will relay some sort of story of having to get undressed, and hang weight belts on floats and stuff like that to try, to get their business done.
Yep.
Anyway, my mate Sean, he had a bit of an emergency, and put it this way, there was going to be no time for him to be taking his weight belt off and tying it onto his float and taking his wetsuit top off and the whole rigmarole. So he turns around to his dive buddy Evan with a knife in his hand. He says, "Listen, bud."
Oh no.
He goes, "Listen, bud, I need you to do something, but you should do it gently."
Oh no.
Man. And anyway, so there's Evan
cutting the ass out of his buddy's wetsuit.
Cutting this guy's crotch out on his wetsuit with his knife.
Talk about a delicate operation.
Oh man, and it's like, it was just too funny. I mean, when we hear these guys, I mean, these are very funny guys, and they like relay the story of do it gently,
That would have been a good video to get on the GoPro.
No, not really.
With the conversation, maybe just above the water, maybe.
Yeah. So that's a funny story from some South African guys.
Oh, good stuff.
That's awesome.
Love a good poo story for our funniest
everyone's
story.
got one, don't they?
There's always a good poo story.
All right, let's move on. Chris, we'd like to ask you at this sort of stage, what's in your dive bag at the moment? What brands, what guns, what general equipment are you using?
You're going to have to point me in a closer direction.
Okay.
Let's start with guns.
You shot an AJ yesterday. What equipment were you using for the day?
Well, I'm out here in Qatar, so when I came here, I actually brought minimal amount of equipment.
Yep.
So I just borrowed some roller guns from MJK.
Yep.
I was diving with a 1.2 Rob Allen handle and barrel with a power roller head muzzle on it.
Okay.
16 mil bands, pre-tensioned all the way to the back with a 7 mil shaft, and I mean that's a really good gun. I mean, we're shooting pretty big fish.
Yeah.
Works well.
Yep. What wetsuit are you using? How warm's the water up there?
Well, it's winter here, so it is quite chilly. So I was diving in a Polar Sub Chiclay suit. Really, I mean, they make fantastic suits. A bit on the expensive side, but I mean, everybody else was cold yesterday, and I was quite toasty, which was nice.
Nice. So what? 5 mil?
Yeah, 5 mil. Actually, it might be a 5.5.
Okay.
Actually, yeah.
Okay. All right. What's one of those suits sort of set you back for a 5.5 mil Polo Sub?
I think in euro they're about. I think they're about €300. I know in South African rands, by the time you bring them in and duties and all that kind of thing, they're normally about $5,000, which is probably twice the price of what you can buy a Rob Allen for.
Wow.
It's probably not worth twice the price as a Rob Allen, because the Rob Allen Chiclay suits that they make at the local factory. I have some at home. I mean they're top notch. I mean they're made with Yamamoto material. They're made with the good stuff. It's just that suit was actually a gift when I went to New Zealand last year with MJK. So it's just very fortunate.
What mask and snorkel was your preference?
I use a Cressy Nano. I heard in one of your previous podcasts that you guys had also tried them out. I just found that that works out of the small masks. That's the one that fits me best. There's no right with masks. There's no right and wrong because everybody's face is different. So whether it's like a Techni Sub Micro or one of the small Oma ones. Depends on your face how they fit. I find that fits me really good. It's low volume.
So you're a big unit wearing a little mask.
Sorry, I'm a big
unit, big man.
With a tiny mask, yeah. That's how you use it.
Yeah. Love it. So, any other sort of notable gear that you'd really want to promote? Like was something a bit unusual that you use that you think other guys should probably get onto?
Yeah, there's a few things, but it'd be hard to explain them all over just in a quick podcast.
No worries.
I have my knife on my belt, but the way I put it on is fairly unique. Near the buckle. Over the years I've had my knife in different places.
Okay.
From my arm to my leg. But as you go along and you hear stories of guys getting tangled and not being able to get to their knives, you very quickly move your knife to a place central, that you can get it with both hands. And I have like hoops and some carabiners on my weight belts as well.
Yep.
Diving with real guns and different things and cameras. It's always handy to have attachment points. So
I might just get a photo of your setup and try and link that in the show notes if you get a chance, Chris.
Yeah, I could do that.
I'll be cheeky and push it, eh?
I could take a snap and I'll just send it to you guys.
Cool. I'll link it up in the show notes.
Yeah, and then fins are diving in various fins depending on what you're doing. Obviously the thicker the wetsuit and the more weights I'm using, the stiffer the fins will get.
Okay.
And then if I'm diving deeper and lighter, then the softer the fins will get. And then if I'm filming, then pushing a camera around, I'll either use a fin that's got a little bit more thrust in it. You might not be as efficient, but you need it. You need to have the ability to swim, a big hefty camera around.
Yep.
So I've got a over the years and having a shop and diving with different people, I've been very fortunate to collect quite a vast array of gear. So a bit of a gear junkie. That's what I said to you. Like,
talk all day.
Send me in a direction. I'll tell you what I've got.
If you're interested in finding out about any more of the gear that Chris mentioned in his dive bag, such as the roll bell and handle, open muzzle, etc., you can check that out at spearfishing.com.au. And if you purchase anything, use the code Noob Spearo to save $20 on purchases over $200 at spearfishing.com.au. All right, well, we might move on, just because we're pushed for time, we might move on to the Fast 5 Facts for Noobs. So if you were starting out all over again, what 5 pieces of advice would you have liked to have had starting out?
The very first thing I'd have to say is a straight spear.
Okay.
It's overlooked by most newbies. The guys miss, and it's just because they don't have straight spears.
Okay.
As most guys have pointed out, a good dive buddy, but a dive buddy who's better than you. And if you can't find one, find someone who you can pay. Like whether it's paying for boat fuel, buying them a case of beers, twist someone better than you to dive with them.
Okay.
Only way you learn.
Yep.
Sneaky trick when aiming is if I'd learned this, I would have shot more fish. Don't over aim and rather just focus on the spots in the fish and almost like pretend you're going to poke that spot with the spear gun. And as you can imagine, you're hitting the spot with your tip of the spear, pull the trigger. And I found that the easiest way to teach someone how to hit the target time and time again.
Love it.
So if I'd known that would have helped.
Cool.
Don't get hung up on big guns. Number 4.
Okay.
A lot of guys come in, they just want the biggest and nastiest gun. And I always say to them, the first thing you need to learn is you've got to be able to dive down with that gun. And then move it around. So don't get hung up on big guns. Rather choose the smallest gun you need for each task,
Okay.
That'll make you a far more efficient spear fisherman. And lastly, keeping all your guns uniform. So once you find a gun that you like, your other guns must follow suit. So same grip, the muzzle must be the same. So no matter what you pick up, you're never changing the way you hold the gun, and the view down the barrel is the same on every single gun. And that way you can swap from a small gun to a long gun, and without any adjustments needed. You just be on target, straight away. It builds great confidence.
Cool.
How was that for fast? Was that
that was excellent.
The points?
It was about as fast as I think you could do it, Chris, because there's some pretty good points.
All right, so let's just recap those 5 points. So we had get a straight spear. You're not going to hit a fish without it. Get a dive buddy, preferably one that's better than you so you can learn their tricks of the trade. Aiming, don't over-aim. I think you said something like act as if you're just going to poke the fish and then take the shot. Don't get hung up on big guns. Big guns aren't always appropriate for your hunting conditions. And keep the guns uniform. So if you're going to have a 1 metre RA, whatever, keep it all uniform throughout the whole lot of your guns. So 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4. I think that sort of sums it up.
Yeah, you nailed it.
I was listening, you see.
That aiming bit of advice helps solve a problem for me. I've got a lot of stuff out of this interview, Chris. I guess we're a bit pressed for time because it's just it's a short interview. But if you would like our audience to take an action, what would it be?
Oh, hey, go and like me on Instagram. Check out stuff. Share some love. Share some stories. Yeah,
sweet.
All good, eh?
And so we'll link up your Instagram in the show notes and have some more photos, hopefully a bit of the photo with your dive knife set up and some of your carabiners and stuff. And I might link up the Coatsman's blog as well because you've got some great content on there for our audience. So
yeah, cool. Awesome. Hey, that'll be great. Thanks.
Cool. All right, man. It's been awesome to have you on the show. And I mean, like I said, I've got tons out of this.
Yeah, I've learned heaps. The Burleigh trick's a big one for us, I think, because that means we don't have to dive as deep out in that deep water. We can get fish up, which is a big bonus for us.
Yeah, it's not hard. It's not dive harder and deeper. It's dive smarter.
Yeah, absolutely,
definitely.
All right, so thanks so much for coming on the show, Chris, and joining us today. You got up really super early for us, and we really appreciate it. Thank you.
Nah, cool. Anytime, guys. Awesome being on the show. Really enjoy listening to all your podcasts, and great to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, mate. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. I sure did. I love the bit about hunting with noise. I think that's awesome. So I'm going to employ that next time I go out. Our next show is going to be part of our 101 series. So no interview. We're going to be diving into a blog post that Shrek has written about shore diving. So that's going to teach you all about shore diving and how to read the conditions and look for the appropriate spots to go shore diving. So tune in for our next episode. Making the switch from plastic freediving fins to a carbon or composite freediving blade makes a huge difference. You don't feel like you're finning through mud anymore. Fatigue and soreness in the ankles goes away. Penetrator blades are lighter and more reactive, and they've improved my diving, and I'm sure they're going to improve yours.
Check out the custom Noob Spearo Octopus Edition at noobspearo.com. Or for the full range of penetrator fins, head over to penetratorfins.com.
Thanks for listening to today's show. Make sure to leave us a review on iTunes or Stitcher. To learn more about becoming a better Spearo, visit us at noobspearo.com and subscribe to our newsletter.
Turbo, why would listeners want to subscribe to the Noob Spearo newsletter?
Well, Shrek, if they subscribe to our newsletter, we will send them the Noob Spearo Guide to Getting Started, which includes the Dive Day Equipment Checklist. Not only that, you get the top 10 tips for becoming a better Spearo from the world's best and more.
Ah, nice. I'm in.